This is going to be the last cleanup lesson for a while. After this, we'll get back to adding features to the game. In this lesson, I'm going to show how to use GitHub for your project management. In this case, we're going to download the SOS RPG source code from GitHub to a local folder so you can edit the current source code. And I'll also show how you can take a current project of yours and upload it to GitHub. This is good if you want to share the source code, do your own version control management with GitHub, or if you ever want to have me check out a bug, this is the easiest way to get your source code to me for me to look at. I'm going to do all this with Visual Studio 2019. There is a command line version of Git that you can use, and there's also a GitHub desktop tool that you can use, but I'm not going to demonstrate those in this video. When you want to get a copy of some source code from GitHub, what you do is you clone the repository. So you make a copy of the code on GitHub on your computer. The way you do this is by going to GitHub and finding the project you want to clone. In this case, I'm going to clone the SOS RPG project. Click on the clone or download button, and you'll have a URL here that you can copy. You can do Control-C or hit the little copy to clipboard icon. You have some options here, so you can open the source code in the GitHub desktop application, open it in Visual Studio, or download as a zip file, but I'm going to show how to open it through starting Visual Studio 2019. So the first thing we have to do is open Visual Studio 2019. And we're going to say clone or check out code. This is getting the code from an online repository like GitHub or Azure DevOps. Then you paste the repository location, and this is going to be that Git address that we have. And it asks what local path you want to put this in. Wherever you want to save this, it has to be an empty directory. So you can either have this tool create the directory for you, or you can go to the folder you want to save this in and say new folder SOS RPG, and then go and select that folder. And click the select folder button, and then click the clone button. This will copy the files from the repository into your local folder, which if we go back here and look, we see that now we have all the files from the repository. Something to notice in the Solution Explorer is it might list this more as a directory structure instead of a solution structure. So I click on the switch views and pick the solution view. And this looks more like I typically use the Solution Explorer with the different projects. And that's all you have to do to clone some code from a GitHub repository. Next, I'll show you how to take one of your projects and upload it to GitHub. We'll close this one down, and I have this GitHub demo project set up. You can open the solution in Visual Studio 2019. The first thing we'll do is install the GitHub extension. In Visual Studio, on the menu, click Extensions, then Manage Extensions. Go to Online. You may have to expand this, and select the Visual Studio Marketplace, and then search for the GitHub extension for Visual Studio. Which is right here. I already have it installed, but if you don't have it installed, you can just select it, click the installation button. You will need to close your Visual Studio and reopen it for the installation to be complete, but that just takes a few seconds to do. And also you'll probably want to click on View, Team Explorer. And the way my Visual Studio is set up, over here behind the Solution Explorer, we have another tab for the Team Explorer, and this is where it has the GitHub information. Now we'll go to my page on GitHub, And if you see, I have 27 repositories listed right now. In the lower right corner of Visual Studio, there's an Add to Source control. Click on the little triangle and select Git. And you should now see in the Team Explorer a Publish to GitHub. I'll sign in with my username and password. And then I've got the option to publish to GitHub now. It's going to ask for the project name, and I'll just leave it GitHub Demo. I can type in a description if I want, and I can make this repository private, or if I leave this unchecked, it will be public. If it's public, anybody can see it. If it's private, you have to invite people in, give them permission to see it. Something to be careful of is if you're uploading something and you're making it public, make sure you don't have any usernames, any passwords, any account information in the files you're uploading. Because once it's public on GitHub, anybody can read it. I'm going to leave this public and click the Publish button. And after a few seconds, we see repository created successfully. If we go to my GitHub page, we see my repositories were 27. Now if I refresh that, it's 28. And if I go look at my repositories, here's the GitHub demo that I just uploaded. Those are the basic things I wanted to show you, so now you can get the latest SOS CS RPG source code if you want, and you can upload your project if you ever need me to look at it. But there's a lot more you can do with GitHub. It's a full version control, so you can make your changes, checking your changes. You can open up your repositories to other people and let them submit pull requests, which are their suggested changes. You can set up build pipelines, so whenever a change is checked in, you rebuild the solution, make sure it still builds, runs any unit test, maybe does some deployments. There's a lot you can do. And if you want to dig more into it, there's a site that I've looked at called Git Immersion. There's going to be a link in the post, and I'll put a link below the video. But that's got some good lessons on how to use Git. And it shows you a lot of things you can do in the command line, which a lot of people prefer. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below the video or on the support page. The URL for that will be linked in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube. And I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Although I'm definitely not an expert on Git, I've mostly used Subversion, but Git seems to be the way that most people are moving to nowadays. For the next lesson, I'm looking at making the combat more complex in the game. Right now it's very simple, and I think building this up is going to be good because some of the steps after that are going to be adding in armor, adding in enchantments on weapons, things like that. So having a good combat system is going to be a lot easier for us to modify in the future when we add in those features. If you have any ideas for features you'd like to add to the game, or what order you'd like us to do for the next set of lessons, please leave a comment and let me know what you'd like. Thanks.